Lieutenant Henri Deagneux, later promoted to major, was an officer in the French 2nd Infantry Regiment during the Battle of Verdun. He vividly recorded his experiences in his novel, A French Soldier's War Diary. His account provides eyewitness insight to the inhumane conditions in which soldiers fought, along with the sheer intensity of war and close-quarter combat. His military experience did not initially begin on the front lines of Verdun. Instead, Deagneux worked in an office for the Eastern Railway. As tensions from the war rose, he was quickly relocated and mobilized as a reserve lieutenant in the Railway Transport Service. That position was only temporary as he was relocated once again to the front lines and soon emerged as a soldier in command during upcoming battles. Deagneux marched alongside his battalion to Verdun on May 31, 1916, and remained there in battle until July 5, 1916. Upon their arrival, they were greeted with miserable conditions. Despite Verdun being a stopping point for troops for a few months prior to the French arrival, the trench system was incomplete. This worsened conditions for troops. Deagneux remembered, "The guns fired angrily. It's pouring down. At 3 p.m., we are ordered to stand by to leave. We don't, however. We spend the night and the day waiting in torrential rain with mud up to our ankles. Our teeth chatter with cold. We are very uncomfortable." The Battle of Verdun was one of the longest battles of World War I between the German and the French. This battle was responsible for the most deaths per square mile per minute and at least 1,000 shell fires per minute. Since military fortresses and trenches were so incomplete, many casualties and deaths were caused as a result of not enough shelter. The relentless firing of shells, waist-deep mud, death, and decay took its toll on soldiers mentally and emotionally. Nonetheless, it never seemed to deter soldiers from pushing forward regardless. This begs the question of how the French soldiers maintained their morale and endurance on Verdun. A simple answer is that it was often the little things that boosted troop morale just enough. It could be as simple as it was smoking the butt of a cigarette or nibbling a ration of chocolate or even shaving their beards. Anything that provided them with a sense of humanity increased their morale. On the other hand, higher authority and orders kept the French on their feet, but it was also their fear that motivated the soldiers to push on. This is portrayed in the film Paths of Glory, where when the French soldiers were informed of their mission for the next day, Private Armand thought that what his fellow soldiers were afraid of: poison gas, explosive shells, a bayonet in the gut. Instead, he said, what everyone is afraid of is pain, not death, since everyone knows he is going to die someday. Physical symptoms such as trench foot, dehydration, starvation, or disorientation were other side effects of both the war combat and the war on their senses. Due to incomplete trenches, it was difficult and rare that a medic could make it out to the front lines where troops were being hurt most. Soldiers had to keep moving forward even if they watched their men go down. Amidst the horrific experience of the war on their senses and hands-on combat. Deagneux's diary reflects continuously about their daily conditions. It's riddled with vivid depictions of the grotesque sights, smells, and sounds that he encountered day in and day out in the trenches. Spanning from fleas, blown-off limbs, thick mud, or firing grenades, there was no shortage of misery to be endured in any trench. What they carried on their backs did not necessarily ease any of their misery, because the weather or some other unfortunate turn of events would often ruin what little rations or equipment that would have been useful. Their uniforms were thin and they carried little on them. They were completely exposed to any sort of weather and were constantly being spattered by the dirt from exploding grenades and shrapnel. The trenches were truly a punishment on all of the senses for soldiers. One can't think of washing or sleeping. No news, neither papers nor letters. It's a void. We are no longer in a civilized world. One suffers and says nothing. The night has been cold. Lying on the damp earth, one just shivers, not being able to breathe properly because of the smell. The conditions within the trenches took such a demoralizing toll on men that it was enough to drive them to madness. It caused them to lose hope and crumble in the pressure, but Deagneux did not let it affect him in that way. He never wrote about the trenches as if he is complaining, only in an informative sense.